We have Deborah from Oregon. How are you doing today?
Hey, Deborah.
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. What would you like to talk to us about?
I think what I called in initially to talk about, my mind's completely blown by the last call.
Deborah, really quick, I'm hearing like a radio in the background. Is something playing there that we can turn down or turn off?
Yes, I can definitely turn that down. My apologies.
No.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, much
Yes.
better. Okay,
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. What I called in to talk about was like my gradual transition from being a very religious person, a theist, to being where I'm at right now, where I consider myself just a humanist. And it's amazing to me that I lived all of my young life, and there was no happiness in my childhood, except for when I would go to Lutheran church with my dad and stepmom, and I would get to fellowship with my youth group. So many happy memories. And I think that's the kind of stuff that held me on for so long. And I now at 51 finally realized that it's all a bunch of crap. I hate to be like disrespectful like that, but it to me it's a bunch of crap, because I can fellowship with really good human beings and I still get that happiness feeling. They don't have to be religious people. They don't have to be atheists. They can be just good people, and that can bring me happiness.
Absolutely.
No, I agree.
If I can, if I can chime in off of that, because I grew up in the church. I grew up going to two different churches. I was baptized Episcopalian, and then my parents and my sister and I changed to Methodist, I believe, when I was in 6th grade. But the Methodist church was a massive part of my childhood, and it's still part of my life today. I'm still friends with, I believe 2 pastors from that church. They weren't pastors there anymore. Maybe 3. I think I have 3 pastors on my friends list still, and a number of adults who helped me grow up in the church. I hold on to the good stuff from that. I hold on to my now deceased youth group pastor, Kevin, who is an amazing role model for me as a high schooler. He was there as both a friend and a teacher, just not in regard to Christian doctrine exclusively, but just life. He was always there to listen and help with homework. And so I hold on to that stuff, and I want to be that someday in some community that we don't have yet, that doesn't involve religion. And that's why we're here, and that's why we're doing the show. So Deborah, you're not alone. I just want to make sure you know that. There are so many people just like you who want to throw out the crap but hold on to the good. And I just want to say it's okay to do that. You don't have to accept crap along with good if they're not part of the same product. And community can be separated from the religion as whenever we want it to, essentially. I think back, I mean, the Boy Scouts was another huge part of my childhood. And while I fully identify that organization needs to make amends for all of the children who were abused, fortunately, that was not the experience of myself or anybody in my troop, to my knowledge, at least. I'm one of the other Eagle Scouts in my organization lives next to me and rents this unit that I'm living in to me. And I'm still good friends with his father, who is our scoutmaster. And the point being is that Boy Scouts, while it has religious roots, it's not a religious organization, really. I mean, you have to, in theory, be a part of some religion to be a member of it. But that's the kind of thing, and again, we would degender it, as the Boy Scouts has been doing, because I want kids to grow up with kids, not boys to grow up with boys and girls to grow up with girls. That just causes problems. But we need something like that in life. We need an organization that, and I don't necessarily think it's exclusively the atheist community of Austin, but that's one of the reasons that I'm here, is to spread that feeling of community to people and to help people find the resources they need to restore that feeling of community, because that's very important to people. It's crucial to being human, to be a part of something. And so anyway, I've been monologuing for a little bit here.
No, it's cool. We knew this. I knew this would happen when we got you on here. It mirrors your conversational style, and I love it.
Go on.
The one thing that I'd add to that, though, is how kind of artificial it is. Because I was enamored by youth groups in my younger days also, and I had a lot of fun in my church youth groups. But I came to very quickly realize that they're only your friends because you share this belief, and it's not just it's not just churches that do this, right? Like I did community theater, and when you do community theater, you work with the same people sometimes every night for months, and you just naturally get those bonds with them just because you're around each other so much. Church has this added benefit of building a community because, well, it's kind of an imperative to go to church every Sunday, and then it throws youth group on top of that to make you feel this connected. But those connections very quickly go away when you're no longer affiliated with that group, and some of the people that you thought you were closest to, it turns out they weren't those good of friends. And then there's one more awkward step than that are the people who, once you start saying, I don't really believe this anymore, and I don't want to go to this, they believe that their only purpose in your life is to try to bring you back into the fold. Right. Is this ringing any bells with you, Deborah? Hello?
She thinks that I am the absolute devil because I've raised 3 atheist children because I gave them the freedom to choose. And she thinks that I am just awful because I did that. And, with friends, like I had a dear friend for years and years and years. And then when he found out that I was atheist or questioning my beliefs, he told me he could no longer be my friend. And that actually left a pretty big hole in my life because I was like, wait a minute. We've been friends since like the 7th grade, and I'm 51 now. So we've been friends for a long time, and you're going to walk away from me? And it was actually very disheartening for me because there was he was my first love. We dated, got all the hearts, flowers, and Twitter faded like Bambi. But for him to just go, okay, you know what? Everything we shared is nothing. It was so hard for me to deal with that. I was just like, I guess that you didn't care for me as much as I care for you because I care for you as a human being. I will still send, supportive hugs or whatever over Facebook when your children are feeling ill, but you have no such feelings or sympathy for me and what I'm going through in my life. And it was very disheartening for me.
Well, this is I want to take this moment to there are a lot of atheists who will share this kind of experience who once they left their religion, they had a lot of negative experiences with people who it turned out were only their friends because they shared a religious belief. And I will implore the atheists among us in the audience and who else might be listening that let's show a good example here. And if somebody does, if they are if they do the opposite, if they say, I'm starting to explore this religion, you know what? That doesn't mean that we can't be friends. And it doesn't mean that I can't reach out to you in a meaningful way and still have a good connection with you. Let's not be the same negative experience that we're hearing that comes from the theist side.
No,
so what are you doing differently? Like you grew up in that, and you said you're a parent now. So what are you doing differently with your kids to make sure that they don't go into the same little spiral?
Well, my kids are all grown now, but I actually gave them the opportunity. I'm like, when they were younger and they started questioning things, I sat down and I educated them. And I'm like, do you want to try this? Do you want to go to Sunday service or whatever? And if they said yes, we went. And if that didn't work for them, we went to something else. And in the end, they all 3 decided that it just was not something that they could believe in because all 3 of my children are very facts-based children. They're all intellectual, and they're like, this makes no sense to me. And treating somebody different because they're not religious makes no sense to me. And my daughter especially had a really I considered it actually cruel. Because she had become like really good friends with this young lady, and they were spending the night and they were having fun parties. It was great. The minute that her parents found out that I was not pushing a religious upbringing for her, their daughter was no longer allowed to come over to our house. And my poor broken-hearted little 7-year-old did not understand why. And I kind of had to explain that to her. And I think at 7 years old, she started to make the jump to that's not right. That's not right. They were taught to treat people well, no matter what. You see somebody who's in need, give them a hand. That's how my children were raised, and they're all really great. If I could brag for a minute, they're all incredible human beings. And you just honestly have to give your children the ability to explore themselves, in my opinion, and you'd be amazed what a good human being they turn out to be.
Yeah. And that's the thing is people, when given the resources to achieve who is it? Maslow, I believe, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If people if people have the resources they need to have those basic needs fulfilled, they're going to explore, they're going to question, they're going to be curious. They may become painters, they may become construction workers. Who knows? Actually, those two things aren't that different because buildings do need to be painted after they're built. Painters and construction workers and musicians and doctors and all of that, and let people explore. I think that the worst thing you could do is tell your kid, this is what I did and you should too. Regardless what you did, even if it worked, you can tell your kid, hey, this is what I did for a few years and this is what other adults do. And, this is how it works for these folks over in this church and this synagogue and this mosque and all of that. And that's fine. But yeah, I was raised with the understanding that my parents were successful because they were Christian. And they're not even like successful. Like, we have one house, not two. I'll put it that way. But yeah, and it's not, I don't even mean to make it sound like a prosperity gospel thing, that we were never prosperity gospel preachers or believers, but ultimately, yeah, it was just the teaching that the belief is tied to the result. And whereas actually the result is tied to the person creating the result and the community behind them and the community they were raised in. The religion itself is tied to that community, but as I always say, it needs to be severed and the community needs to be sustained, because that's what's really important, is for people to feel, welcome and important and, belong somewhere, to feel needed.
The rule for that is just follow Puck's rule of treating people in a very basic way. BASIC. Make people feel beautiful, accepted, safe, important, and comfortable.
Oh, I like that. Especially comfortable. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll notice I'll notice I'm being kind to somebody, but they still seem uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, maybe I just need to back off, whether it be a romantic interest or a friend interest or whatever.
It's going to be different for different people, but what matters is reaching out to them and saying, you know what, I want this to be a place that's comfortable for you.
But yeah, no, you always want people to be comfortable around you. And if they're not comfortable, maybe that's a sign that you shouldn't be around each other, if not, forever, just for the time being.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah. We got to move on to some other callers, but thank you very much for giving us a call and sharing your story with us.